Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Expressions, the podcast. Tonight, we're speaking with Danny Proctor, the bonsai tree maker, film photographer, videographer, director, and yes, former professional mind reader. He is the epitome of creativity, and we are so excited to have him here this week. Danny?
What an honor.
This is good fun. So, this is take two. I forgot to hit record on the first one. It's okay. We're allowed to say. So
It's okay.
Danny, I'm sorry that you've had to sit and listen to us banter for the first half of a show before.
No, this is amazing. This is amazing. I can't wait to hear it live.
All right, well, let's get to our co-host here and see how you guys are doing. John and Sean, this is your first time with us as permanent hosts on the show. So just going to say hello to you guys and say hi to Mark and Aurora, and then we'll get into our conversation with Danny. John, how you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking, Brian. This time I have a better answer. Yeah. Take two. Yeah. My second or third shot at being a model today. Didn't like it. Don't understand it. Can't wait to see the photos. Told Aurora about my good side. Yeah. What else did we cover last time?
That's pretty much it. Well, that's funny though, because I mean, being a model isn't something that everybody just is comfortable with at all.
Can't be me.
I was totally not comfortable, and I overdid it when I did our shots. And sorry, Mark. I mean, you weren't there for it today, and I feel bad because so far, for all of those photos that you see of us for the podcast, they were all shot by Aurora. And poor Mark, living up 16 hours away in Thunder Bay, there was just no way for Aurora to make that round trip to get those photos for him, so he had to do it himself.
If she really loved me, she'd make the effort.
Oh my God.
It sounds like my mother.
No, but like, if I'm being honest, Aurora did a fantastic job. Really ran that shit, and yeah, those photos are going to be great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
To be fair, the photos that I sent her were shit, and she made them look good. So
Not true.
processed all of my
What a
photos
pro.
and made them look great. So yeah.
Always, Mark. Always your own worst enemy. Your photos are fun.
Yes, the photos are great.
Better than I would have done for myself. So let's just put it that way.
Did you see her? Yeah, his photos are great.
No.
You're reading too far into this.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I know. I just like to poke fun. But
Sean, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm just chilling here in my room, so it's good. I'm happy to be on the first episode with a guest with you guys. It's gonna be a fun one. I'm stoked.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, we've got a lot of hosts. We've got, a lot of people on the panel, but that adds diversity. That adds a lot of different kinds of questions, and I'm really looking forward to that. Aurora, as John said, you were running stuff today. You did such a good job. I was there as your Val, your voice-activated light stand, and I thought it was really cool watching you work. You knew exactly what you were doing. I can't wait to see the photos. But besides that, how have you been?
I've been doing good. The photo shoot today was a lot of fun. We had quite a bit of fun with that. I had some plans canceled. I had another shoot kind of lined up today. It was just like a women's photo club, but the location changed. So we decided not to go for it because it's too far out of our way. So I had some time looking at some bikes that we have in storage in the house here, and they may not cut it for a long-term travel vehicle for me. So we actually went to go look at a few bikes today, and I'm pretty excited to see if maybe we invest in a new bike.
So is your car broken, or are you just doing the...
No, my car isn't broken. I just gas is so expensive.
Oh, right.
Economical.
And the other thing is the weather is beautiful. I live down the road from my work. So, why not bike? It's something that I used to love doing for the longest time, and just super happy to get into it again. So motivating myself to do it.
Awesome. And you're going to inspire me to do it too, probably, because you and I both live about the same distance from work. And I used to ride my bike every day until I got a car. And then it's just like, I got a car. Why would I ride a bike?
Exactly.
But anyway, I hear you. Gas is nuts for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, glad you're here. Mark, how about yourself, man?
I'm doing well. As you figured, I was the only host not at a photo shoot today. Well, other than Ryan, we know Ryan couldn't make it this evening, but no, it was fun. I was just about that, but no, I just love Aurora's photos so much. When she posts them, I always like them on Instagram and everything. But no, the day was good. We were busy at work, and I suppose I could probably dust off my bike and ride to work too, but that's not likely to happen because the one thing I have to say is where I live in Thunder Bay, I live sort of at the west side of the city. And if you think about, I live far enough away from the lake that everything is downhill to get to work, which means that it's pretty much an uphill ride all the way back. So,
which is the last thing you want to do at the end of it.
yeah, after I've already put in, I have to check here how many thousand steps I put in today, but I'm at almost 17,000 steps for the day. So I don't think I'd want to ride that for after work.
I'd say
just leave my bike and
getting
take an Uber.
Getting the same exercise with just your walking. So
yeah, so it's my store is a quarter mile deep, and I just I sit down and I hear Mark II and I go, okay, and I stand up, and then I get back to my desk. I sit down and hear Mark II and okay, get back up. So that's for me today.
That's good. I don't mind working.
It's really just someone pranking you on the phone.
Yeah, that's right. Mark to the front, please. Oh no, Mark to the back. Mark to the
Yeah.
So
all right, well, that's great.
It's good. I'm just
Thank you guys.
Looking forward to getting to talking to Danny.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Let's do that. Let's get into it. I'm very excited to have Danny here because you are a man of multi-talents. And Shelly and I, by the way, Shelly says hello. My wife.
Tell her I say hi.
I absolutely will.
We'll see her in a few weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. We were talking about options and people that we could ask on the show. And she's like, why don't you invite Danny on? I'm like, fuck yeah. Why didn't I already do that? Like how come it took me so long to ask you? You do so many different things. And one thing I didn't realize until we started talking was the magic that you do, the other things that you're into. So before we get into the video and all that stuff, I want to kind of brush on that history, dust off the album of your life and go back to what inspired you first. Because you're not the only talented person I know who started off with magic and that kind of thing. And I'll get into who that might be in a minute, but tell me, what inspired you to
Could
get
it be
into
a wrestler that we know?
No.
Could it be a wrestler that we know?
It's not a wrestler.
Because there is a wrestler that you and I both know that is a really good magician.
That would be Brendan.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be. Yeah. He's tremendous.
And we didn't even talk
So
about that.
I
when
got
we had
into
him on the show.
magic. Really?
Yeah, we didn't even get into it.
He's tremendous. He's very good. Yeah. I
That's
wouldn't
cool.
expect it. And then he once said, he saw me, I was doing a magic trick for Santino and John Morrison. And then he was like, oh, we got a jam. And when a magician says jam, that means that they're good. Usually, if somebody says that, that's when you know, okay, they've been around the magic parlance, so they're good. And then he showed me, he was extremely good, which is nice. I used to work in a magic shop in Toronto. Awesome. That's how I got my like real heels into magic. And mind reading was because of Morrissey Magic. So when I was a kid, I was like 14. So that would have been grade 10, grade 9. There was a kid in school that showed me a trick. And then I told my grandpa about it because he showed me how to do it. So I showed my grandpa. And then doesn't the son of a bitch know a trick too? And he hits me. It's like you make a silk vanish. It's a very standard trick. And he hit me with it. And I didn't know how it was done because I just learned my first trick. And then he gave me it and he showed me how to do it. So that's when I got hooked. And then it was going to the magic shop a lot, so much. And if you show enough effort, people are interested, and then they're like, hey, would you want to try demoing behind the counter? Which at the time was like the biggest honor for a budding magician is to be asked behind the counter of a magic shop. Mm-hmm. And so that was my big step into magic was that. Well, Then I got into mind reading because I was just fascinated by it. And there was a mind reader in Las Vegas who had a good residency. He was very established. No, like he wasn't established there for a long time. He was there for maybe a few years, but he was my favorite. So then I was like, well, I need to get lessons from this guy. If he's the best, you always pursue who's the best in any field that you want to get good at and then study them. So I wrote him and I was like, hey man, I don't know if you do lessons, but I would be willing to go to Vegas. I will do anything for lessons from you. And he's like, sure, man. Send me some money. And so every few weeks, I got 2 jobs. Every few weeks, I would send him money. And then doesn't he vanish?
Oh,
doesn't he just
classic.
take all my money and go?
What
yeah,
the
classic
fuck?
magician bait and switch.
Yeah, seriously though.
So I was
that's
heartbroken.
Wow.
I was heartbroken because he was like my idol in magic or in mind reading. And then there's another magician in Toronto named Chris Mysterion the mind reader. And he was very big. He still is. He's actually bigger now than he was then. But he was so big that I was like, I could never write him because he's so all over the place. He's doing so many things. Well, doesn't he hear about me getting conned, and then send me a message? And he's like, hey, buddy, I heard you got scammed out of a lot of money. And he's like, sometimes all the help you need is in your own backyard, and you don't need to pay me anything. Just come on over, and we'll build a show.
Wow.
Which
Oh
is
my gosh.
everything I could have wanted. And that
For
is
sure.
how I became a professional mind reader, is because of this guy. Because Chris Mysterion showed me the ropes and really like took me in as his first student, his only student.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
And that was
That is
my
so cool.
It's actually
What a
funny
turn of
of
events,
magic.
man.
Yes.
because when we first
Yeah.
started talking about guests on the podcast, I asked you if he would be a guest on our podcast, and you're like, "Well, that's right," because I saw you posted a photo with him and Steffi, the Sentimentalists, on Instagram, and I saw
Yes.
this. I was like, "How do you know these two?" Because I've been a huge fan of them for years. You and I have talked about this, and you're like, "Yeah, sure. Here's his number," and I messaged him, and he replied right back, and he was like, "All in, going to get him on the show. That still may happen. I'm so excited about that." But timing is a funky thing in the world of magic, right? Everybody's going here,
Yeah.
going there, traveling. There's so much going on, and I think that there's also the personalities in that world have got to be interesting to work with. I'm sure as well.
Oh, everybody. Well, yeah. I mean, you have to be to want to pursue that. You have to be a special kind of person to live that kind of life. Any kind of performer, you get a real handful of people. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
this friend of mine that I knew that was also into magic, Peter McKinnon. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a YouTuber. and
Yeah.
he's gotten quite big from doing YouTube, but originally he started doing magic, and I had him on my TV show once, and he did this little trick for us. And like, I love magic in the way that it could just, you do one little thing that to you could be so easy. And I don't mean simple. I mean easy. It's just like something that's natural for you to do. And then a mind like me would look at this, be like, what just happened? Like my whole reality was just shaken.
Impossible.
Is that something that a
Right.
magician strives for? Is that power that a magician feels that they crave?
Yes, absolutely. And now, granted, McKinnon is one of the best magicians you can find, and he also happens to be one of the best videographers right now and photographers. Like it's amazing what he's done. And you also told me about his involvement with Illusionist.
Right.
Was it Illusionist or Theory 11?
No, Illusionist. Yeah.
One of the two. He was
illusionist.com.
involved. Illusionist, yeah, which then ended up being one of the biggest magic companies in the world because people sell tricks. I've sold tricks. I'm in a lot of magic books because of you come up with something that nobody else has before, or like you learn a few techniques and then it's a combination of techniques with your own twist on it that you can then sell. Whether it's free, you give it away for free, or you can sell it in books and stuff and DVDs, which he did. But yeah, he's tremendous. So then there was a pitfall that I had when I started in magic was the idea of as working at a magic shop, you want to fool magicians, which is very different from fooling lay people, people who don't know magic. So the tricks that a performer at Boston Pizza will do is very different than what you perform at a magic shop, because you want to sell a magician on a trick to go, like for them to go, this doesn't make sense. Where a lot of tricks they can reverse engineer and figure out. So then the idea of like, okay, this is a trick that will make a layperson melt their mind. It is different. And that was a hard thing for me to get over, is to go, oh, this is what a layperson will totally enjoy, as opposed to always looking for something that a magician will enjoy, because it won't be the same thing.
It's
Where
true.
a layperson will go like, it doesn't matter how many things were involved to a layperson, but it would to a magician, because it makes it more impossible for them.
Right.
But the simple thing for a layperson is what is more impossible to them. It's very different.
That's interesting. Have you ever seen the show Penn and Teller?
I was literally just thinking that as he was talking.
Yes.
I watched that, and it's interesting that they do that. They watch the trick, and you can see that they talk about it, and
They got like a notebook and they're like reversing it. They're like,
and then they present how they think the trick was done, and most of the time they're right, but every now and again somebody fools them, and they're like, "Wow, we don't know how you did it." So That's just amazing.
Well, that is exactly what happened with my friend Mysterion, Chris Mysterion and Steffi K. They're a mind reading duo called the Sentimentalists. They were on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, and they fooled them.
Wow.
Well, what you don't see in the episode is they actually spent like 20 minutes examining Chris and Steffi as to, in the show, it shows like, we couldn't figure it out. They went up on stage, they looked at them for a bit, but in reality, they took 20 minutes inspecting them. So there were no electronics, there were no like feeding devices to give information to each other.
Well, that's
they
because
checked everything. They
Steffi.
checked their ears. They checked their.
That's because Steffi is actually gifted.
She's tremendous. She is the quality of show that the two of them can put on is next level. It's impossible. So they fooled Penn and Teller. Well, then you got to close out the show when you fool Penn and Teller. And don't they bring me along? So I got to hang out with Penn and Teller after the show.
Oh, that's awesome!
It was the
my
craziest. It was a dream
Damn.
come true. So Teller was hung out with us till 2 a.m. You know, the guy who doesn't speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does he
He's telling
sound
me,
like?
You know, different techniques. he has a voice that would make radio people jealous. He has the nicest voice I've ever heard. And I'm like,
Wow.
how could you hide this gift?
Well kept secret, I tell you.
Wow.
I saw him on a show where he actually had a speaking part once.
Wasn't it amazing?
I'm trying to remember what the show
I
was.
bet there's some YouTube clip of like low definition with him like talking in it or something that somebody found.
But to protect
Somebody
everything,
with
he
their
did.
cell phone at a
Where a
restaurant,
guy's like-
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Sneaky recording. But I mean, that's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
like wrestling world. I mean, the world of kayfabe, right? They have to protect their story. They have to protect the fake, real side of things, right? I would think in magic,
Entirely.
it would be very similar to the world of wrestling in that it's all what you put out. It's not what's going on behind the scenes. It's all what you put out for people to see. It's awesome.
Entirely. Yeah.
I just want to quickly give a quick story of my experience with the Sentimentalists, with Steffi K and Mysterion. Why I was so enthralled with these two and what the power that you guys do can actually do to people. This was a few years ago. My wife and I were walking through the CNE, and they were performing at the CNE. And we were just coming up at the end of their presentation, and we didn't really get to be involved. And they basically pick somebody out of the crowd, and they interact with funny things about the people or things that they know about the people or whatever. So we missed the whole thing, and Shelly was a little disappointed. She was really hoping that she would be called on. So afterward, I walked up and I said, "Hey guys, great show. I got to admit, Shelly was really hoping that you would call on her." She's like, and Mysterion, I was talking to Chris, and he goes, "Hey, Steffi," and he called her over. He got, I don't remember what exactly was said. And bottom line is, they started their performance with us, and all of a sudden, Steffi from the opposite side of the stage goes, "I'm picking up on something. A mouse? You're holding a mouse?" And Shelly, my wife, had her hand in her purse. Our cat had just passed away, and her favorite toy was this little stuffed mouse. And Shelly had her hand on the mouse in her purse, and Steffi picked up on it. And there's no way she could have picked up on a mouse. And she didn't waffle. She wasn't like, it could be a mouse. It could be a this. No. It was like, oh, you're holding a mouse. And sure enough, she was. And
Nothing
Shelly
written
and
down, nothing else.
they didn't know us from anybody. You know, we just kind of walked up,
Right.
and it was amazing. And that's the first time I actually believed that somebody has a gift, a power of some kind.
Again.
Because I'm a skeptic
Yeah.
at heart, and that just blew me away. And Shelly,
Right here,
Yeah.
skeptic
Yeah.
at heart. But that stuff is terrifying when executed like correctly like that.
do you do that kind of stuff when
Oh
you
my
say
God,
mind
yeah,
reading?
you
Is
won't-
that
I could. That's
that-
what I did. That's what I did. I wasn't as good as the two of them. The two of them, like Steffi and Chris, are the best in the business, hands down. Now, granted, they're my best friends, but with that aside, I've studied mind reading. I've studied everything you can imagine about it. There's no doubt in my mind that they're the best in the business. It's crazy how incredibly talented they are at any time. And there's a saying that like a pro is their best regardless. Like you said, you can walk up to them at any point. You can find just Chris Mysterion on the road and say, "Hey, could we do something?" And he'll call Steffi, and she'll like answer, and she'll give you whatever it is their routine is going to be. She is on it. Like it is something
Wow.
different. It's something very special.
they're so good?
Yeah.
And I remember when I talked to them,
Yeah.
I reached out to them afterward and I explained this experience we had. And at that point, they had only been together about 6 months. They were just starting to
Really?
be together. And that's what they told me. They were just together for about 6 months and they were just learning their stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is just disgusting how good they are. But enough about them.
Crazy.
This isn't about them. This is about you.
No, we
And,
can talk about them all night.
I know we could, but that's okay. I want to learn more about you. So how did that work for you? Like you worked at the shop and then did you say you were a professional magician? How did that transition?
It was because of Mysterion. It was because of Chris. So then he's taught me how to do mind reading shows. And then I just got a bunch of gigs all the time because very few people can do mind reading or very few can do it well. Like if people do it, there is times where you can catch them out or there's times where you go like, okay, well, something happened there, which is fine. But I try to not have that approach. It's much nicer to have a clean, impossible approach. But I mean, everybody's different. Anyways, that's how I got into it. So I would get gigs. I did Canada's Wonderland Halloween Haunt, which was a really fun one.
Love that.
People, when they show up, they're there for a theater show. Mm-hmm. So that was a really interesting experience. Really, because Mr. Burlesque shows, we did tons of burlesque shows, maybe 2 a week for years. That was a very busy market because it's all vaudeville acts. So there would be burlesque, there would be comedians, there would be mind reading, magicians too. I love that. So that was how I really built it.
Nice. What did your when you first started? You said you started working at the magic shop when you were like sort of like in high school, like kind of like earlier on. Like,
yes, I was 18.
What did your peers think about it? Like when you started doing magic, like were you trying to like try
everybody
tricks on your friends or whatever?
Yes, all the time. I would do a trick. It was like my favorite thing to do.
That's awesome.
And my sister and my parents hated it. It was like all the time you're shuffling all the time and you drop cards and check out this new idea, things like that. It got a bit too much. But yeah, all my friends loved it. So then everybody would make trips up because it was at right near Yorkdale.
Okay.
And we lived in Newmarket. So that was a big drive, but everybody always made that trip up just to see new things. And it was always a blast. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that your peers were like really supportive of that.
Oh, everybody was. That was also a big thing. Cause there's definitely people that could make funny, especially as a kid and magician.
There's always that connotation, right. Like, okay, like get your cards and your coins out of here,
All right.
But then David Blaine came along. That was my first exposure, was like the up close magic kind of stuff like that. Thought it was really cool. So I saw Chris Angel like everyone else, like, I don't know.
Yeah. When Chris Angel first came out, I was like, oh my God, this guy is the coolest. And then by the end, everyone's like, okay, he's all right. But David Blaine kept it going, man. He still does. Yeah. And Chris Angel now, his Vegas show is apparently amazing. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. He's got that resident MGM Grand show or whatever. So he's doing just fine, levitating, whatever the hell. But
yeah, he's doing fine. Yeah.
Here's a story about David Blaine. Sean, before I say that, Sean, just so you know, I muted you. You had some clicking and popping going on. So if you want to talk again, you're going to have to unmute yourself. Okay, so David Blaine, the guy I was talking about, Peter McKinnon. The first story he told me was the time that he went to go see David Blaine in New York City. He was working for a company and he was supposed to be at work and he called in sick. Next thing you know, he's down hanging out with David Blaine in New York. And I guess the company saw him on TV hanging out with David Blaine. And they're like, we know you weren't sick. You're fired. And he's like,
imagine getting canned.
But that's the dedication that it takes though, right? Like, this is what he wanted to do. This was his passion. And it's just like you, Danny. I mean, that was your passion. You got a job there. You started doing it one gig after the other, and it led to, being a professional and doing that full time. So, I mean, I don't know anybody who succeeds in life by wanting to succeed. They succeed in life by succeeding, by making it happen, by putting one step in front of the other and just going and doing it. And when Aurora said earlier that, her day was a little easier for her because she had a job or another thing that she was going to do fall through. In my brain, all I can think is, oh, that's awesome. I love when that happens because then I have the day to myself. But that's why I'm doing a podcast here, working at Henry's, not traveling the world and doing YouTube videos and, making $300,000 a year from YouTube. So It's that extra energy that you have to put into things. And that's why my hashtag in life is I shoot for me. I'm happy doing what I do. I'm not saying I should be doing those things.
That's
I'm
exactly
just saying
it.
the energy you put into it is what you get out of it. And, you know, I could tell that you're a go-getter and you've got that attitude and personality every time I work with you. I mean, you're always a smile on your face, always loving what you do. And that's a big important thing to us here on the show, doing what you love to do, being a creative and turning your passions into your daily lifestyle. That's, as far as I'm concerned, success.
Yeah. Anything. It doesn't matter what it is. If you can do what you enjoy or make anything you do like artistic, artful, put anything behind whatever it is. I worked at Mucho Burrito. Man, I would wrap the best burrito you could find. I swear to God. And I love it, but because it doesn't matter what it is. Like if you can do your best, that's all that matters. That's all that matters, because then it feels good for you.
You worked at Mucho Burrito?
With the wrestling. Oh yeah, it was an amazing job.
Did you work with
if you want to get a burrito, you go there. Yeah, I got him the job there.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I worked there like a few years before him.
That's funny because
then he's like, I need a job. I'm like, I got it, buddy.
And I went in there one day and there he was. I was like, oh my God, this is another person he shoots the video with.
Oh, that's how you guys ran it?
Well, I mean, I knew him previously as well through other ways, but I don't remember how we.
That's how I got it. That's how I got into wrestling videography, is because of Trevista. Because there was a guy that couldn't make it to a show, and he was like, we got to call Danny up because this has always been his dream. And then, that's how it all started, because of him.
Well, before we get into the wrestling side of things, did you guys have any questions that you wanted to go over? Yeah, Aurora.
Yeah, well, I have a couple. You mentioned briefly earlier about selling tricks, which I think is very interesting.
It's on my notes.
Yeah, so I'm so curious. Like you said, you've sold magic tricks and stuff like that to books and stuff like that, and I think that's very interesting. Could you explain a little bit more about the process and maybe
it's
an example
odd industry. It's a big industry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, and maybe an example of one that you sold, but
obviously not in great detail.
Not showing the trick or telling us what's behind the trick, or just kind of at face value what the viewer might see.
I can tell you something. So it would be, I created one called Ghoster Coaster, and it was a mind reading trick of, you would know what beer they were thinking of. So it's published in some book. So basically, you would take a coaster, they would write down their favorite drink. They would have to write it down. You put it down on a table, but then you have another coaster in your hand. And as you reach to move their coaster, you flick their coaster onto your lap and introduce the fake blank coaster on the table as you move it across the table. Now you have their coaster in your hand, and you know what drink they're thinking of. And then you can do anything from there. That was the simple premise of that trick. Now there's a lot more to it. You can do way more with it, but it's the idea of getting a peek and revealing what their drink is. Where you could, drink an invisible one. Oh, I'm tasting Heineken. Is that what you're thinking of? And they're like, yeah, anything like that. So you come up with that. I learned that because of a card switch somebody came up with. And I was like, oh, that'd be neat to do with a coaster and a drink. And then that got published in some book. So I'm in about 10 different books for different tricks. But it's a huge industry. There's just magicians who only create tricks for magicians. And they do very well at that.
So when you came up with that trick, or you were developing it or whatever, do you have to pitch it to, like, who do you know to tell about that?
Right. Yeah. So there is, what's good standard is that you usually bring it to people who are much more advanced or have been in the industry for a long time before you ever publish it, because they may go like, oh, Max Maiden invented that in 1975 and it's called something else.
Okay.
And you never want to put out someone else's trick. Like not only do people jump on you, but there's just no respect in doing that.
No.
So that is a problem in itself. So you never want to do that. So I had a very famous mind reader who became a friend of mine because I would perform some of his tricks in a way that has never been done before. His name was Kenton Nepper. So I would send him like, hey, buddy, I did your show at the 50th anniversary of Morrissey Magic. What do you think? And he'd be like, what book was this from? Like, I've never seen this before. and I'd show what trick, and this is the technique, but I use it for this and whatever. So we became good friends, and that he was the guy that published a lot of my books. And he was the guy that really would vet. Okay, yeah, this is good. This trick, let's come up with 4 new methods to doing it, and then find out what's the best. Because sometimes you have a good idea, and the execution isn't great. So, okay, how can we come up with different execution for it? Stuff like that. So that is you. I mean, other times people just put it out and not care, and then they get backlash. You never know. Like,
the way you put that though is really important to get that, like, I guess, quality. That quality check by somebody who is higher up who already knows, like, this already exists. You can't do that.
It's huge. And then there's also guys that put out junk magic. Working in a magic shop, you would see it and you go, this is just terrible. I would never want to sell somebody this because they'll think I'm a jerk for offering it to them, even for considering offering it to them. So that's another thing. People can put out anything.
Wow.
So. Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's selling tricks, Aurora.
Yeah.
It's a weird market.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it, but it's cool that there's so much thought that goes into it if it's done right, and it's amazing that you've been able to do that. The other thing I was just gonna say is just like mind reading in general, as far as like magic tricks are concerned, is probably the most interesting form of magic tricks for me, and I would love to, like, if you're ever like performing or ever in the area, I'd love to like actually see you, do one of these.
For sure. Yeah, we can figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me for magic.
The mind reading, I agree. It's like the sleight of hand thing. I understand that there's a lot to like motion and movement, but my pea brain can figure that out. When somebody can tell me what I'm thinking from the other side of the room, I'm like, that's like you're a mutant. You're an X-Men.
That's mysticism.
Yeah.
That is truly beyond the realm of anything I could think about. So that's really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's a different game. Yeah.
Now, how do those skills translate to other parts of your world, though? Like, obviously, mind reading has a lot to do with reading who you're talking to, understanding their persona, their demeanor, their traits. I'm sure there's a lot of that. I've not done it, so you can correct me. But how do those skills translate into the rest of your world? I mean, obviously, there's a different level of confidence. Any magician I've ever known, there's a different level of confidence that they have dealing with people and so on. But how do those skills of mind reading, do they affect the rest of your world? Like, do you use those skills to get a better deal when you're getting coffee or something? Because I got a story that got us free beers from Pete at a cafe.
You did?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did he pay with Monopoly money?
No. We went in there and Pete just was Pete, and he had his deck of cards and he's just doing his shuffling. And the waitress comes over. I'm hanging out with him and Gabriel, and we're just having some food, catching up. And he's just playing with these cards. And she's like, "Oh, can you do me a trick?" He's like, "Sure, but it'll cost you." And she's like, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, it'll cost you a round." And she's like, "Well, if you can impress me, you're on." And needless to say, we got a couple rounds of free drinks that night. And so do you ever utilize your skills that way?
That is wonderful. I don't do barroom bets. I don't drink. I haven't had a drink in 10 years. So that doesn't help me any. But I don't drink anymore. But I think that there are a lot of people who do the barroom bets, and I love it. I love to see it. I love seeing anybody perform, though. I'm a sucker for anyone who's willing to go out there and do, even if it's bad, it's still amazing that anybody's willing to do anything. Even comedy, even bad comedy, you can't hide behind it. And I like that. Like, it's still something. Sorry. Yeah, it's still something. Okay, they're trying, and somebody's up there.
Yeah, you cannot hide from
it. The joke at the magic shop, you can't. But like, there's always people joke at the magic shop, like, oh, the ventriloquist wants to be a magician. The magician wants to be a comedian, because that is what you can't hide behind. So. Because magic, even if it's bad, you can sometimes have something go right. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in my everyday life, I don't know. I can't say that like an exact instance. of going, oh yeah, I get this because
I totally
of that.
mind fucked that guy.
Um,
None of that.
yeah. And maybe it's because I'm not that good. I don't know.
No, you're just
But
not an evil
I
person.
Don't have yeah.
It's good not to be
Yeah.
evil. Use your powers for good,
Right.
not for evil. Mwah.
Right. So,
All
John,
right.
are you a comedian? Is that why?
No. I was making fun of Sean, actually.
Oh yeah, as usual.
Sean, you're a comedian.
He did some comedy at one point.
I attempted it and I failed fucking miserably
Good.
at it. But it was fun. My comedy mainly lies in telling stories that happened to me mainly. So like any of my just shitty stories, no pun intended. But it's tough. And I was actually gonna ask, is doing like any sort of like magic or mind reading, like is it weird to do it in front of like a bunch of people? Like do you have to have like a shitload of confidence in order to just stand up and like in front of a bunch of people and just randomly throw shit around like that?
Yes. I think it's very similar to doing anything in the public eye. I think you have to either, like, I get so afraid, I get so scared, and I sweat like crazy, and I get so caught up in myself. And then when I'm on stage, it's like a button switch. There's like a switch, and it's just not me. It's like it's a whole different me out there performing and doing everything and interacting with people and coming up with jokes I would have never come up with before. It's almost like it never happens. And then I come off and I'm like, what the hell just, like, what was that? And that's really how it's like. And it's not like, oh, I have confidence so I can do this. My grandpa is a motivational speaker, or was a motivational. He's passed away recently, but he always would try to have me go on stage. And no matter how afraid I was, that was always the thing. Like, can you always do something that makes you uncomfortable? And that would always be it. Being on stage really made me uncomfortable. And,
Wow.
So yeah, I don't want to say I have tremendous confidence to go on stage, but like you going up and telling stories that, or even if you bomb, I think that is way more confidence. Cause again, there's nothing to hide behind.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I did a trick. Sorry, what?
It's definitely like a hard thing to do. Like even just to like a 25-minute set is like brutal for a guy like me.
Some people can't do a tight 5.
Yeah, no, it's hard shit. I respect
25
the fact
minutes.
that people can do that kind of stuff. It's kind of like creeps me the hell out. I sweat like a pig when I'm up on there.
Well, it's like do or die. You put yourself in the situation. You stand up on stage, and it's like, oh, I gotta do something.
It's like different between like there's a difference between like when you're around like your friends and like the odd few of your family members that have the same dark, shitty humor as you, but like and then a bunch of random people you just don't know. Right? There's a huge like separation between that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking.
There's a funny thing I heard about.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just saying on the last show that we did, we were talking about the differences between humor back in the day to today and so on and so forth. And a lot of, I think, the nerves that people would have today is getting up and saying something that would totally offend people that maybe wouldn't have, 10, 15 years ago. Have you run into those situations yourself when you're on stage or you're performing that you either don't say something because or you look back on things you did say and be like,
he tries to keep the COVID talk out of the magic, Brian.
It's funny how that's a problem, right? You can now not talk about that. You don't want to mess with the algorithm.
Yeah, but I also think like, is it possible that like even 15 years ago, there must have been stuff that you would have said that you go, oh, I can't say that. And then 15 years before that, like, I just feel like it's always something. And every 10 years, it's something different. And whether that's right or wrong, I think it's for the most part right, and sometimes it's not. And then you figure that out 10 years later, and then everybody says it again, or whatever it is. I think pendulum swings, and mostly for the good. But I get old joke books because they're so bad. Like I have like an old joke book from the guy who founded the Magic Castle, Milt Larson. And it's so bad. Like you're reading these jokes and you're like, how could anybody even think of saying this? Except there was one good joke from the book. And it was like, so you go on after a girl sings because it's for vaudeville. And you go like, what they call her Colostra Brava, or as they say in the Metropolitan, lousy. And I like that.
That's so fucking good.
That's the best. That's the only good one from the book, and it's not that good.
That's solid, but I'll put most of that on delivery.
That's,
yeah. Thank you.
that's the thing too. I mean, just like magic, of course, it's all about the delivery, the personality. I literally know one joke. That's it. One
Let's
joke.
hear it, Brian.
I don't think I can say it. I mean, we are an explicit rating.
Shelly might get mad.
No, I told her the joke. It's a good joke. Okay, I'll tell you. So there's this guy who is dating a girl named Wendy, and he falls madly in love with Wendy. And he goes out one night and he gets so drunk that he figures he's going to get a tattoo of Wendy's name on his body. Of course, he finds the one logical place to get a tattoo right on his appendage. So he goes and gets this tattoo, and the tattoo artist is working and doing his magic, and then the guy passes out from the pain. He wakes up later to see nothing. Like, why is there no tattoo there? All I see is like a W and a Y. He goes, don't worry, when the time is right, you'll know what it is. So he's with his woman that night, and he gets excited, and his appendage grows, and he looks on the side, and it says Wendy, and he's like all happy. Anyway, fast forward to the next day, and he's at the gym working out, and he's going to the showers afterward, and he looks to the big black guy standing next to him, and he goes, I noticed, not to be rude, but you've got a W and a Y on your appendage. And he goes, are you dating a Wendy too? He goes, no, man. It says, welcome to Jamaica. Have a nice day.
Nope, can't say that.
Nope.
I should probably edit that out when we go through afterwards. That's my only joke. It's the only one I remember. So
Lord,
that's another problem. Like, memory is a big issue, right? In anything you do like this, remembering the tricks, remembering the moves. How much practice goes into one of your moves before you can actually show it? I like that segue.
Oh, a
Just get
stupid
away
amount
from
of
that
time.
joke.
Yeah, for most. Yeah, no, that's good. For most people, it's like an insane amount. And then there's other guys that just take, like, they see a thing once and then they know it forever. That doesn't make sense to me. But there are people like that. I guess with everything, people can hear a movie line or a movie and recite the entire movie. I had a buddy in school who would do that with Half Baked. Remember that movie?
Yes, I'm one of those guys.
He repeat every line from Half Baked word for word. It was crazy.
Great movie.
But yeah, it is. Yeah.
The best part is they only ever saw the trailer and he knew the whole movie.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions about the magic for Danny before we move on to the next part? No. All right, cool. So Danny, video. How did you transition from magic to getting into video? Because again, that's where I know you're doing video for Barrie Wrestling. Is that something that you're doing more of these days? Like, what is that your main thing?
Yeah. I've always been into video. Like, since I was a kid, every project we would try to swag it into making a movie about it, or like, oh, instead of painting, could I make a little video? All the time. Me and three of my friends, because one of them, their mom had a VHS camera and a Mac, like the see-through blue Mac.
Yeah.
So that was our hookup for everything. We made everything a movie. So always I loved it. And my grandpa, again, like I said, was a speaker. And so there was always film crews around him, and there was always video crews at all of his seminars. So I would always hang out with them because I loved it. So he would make them go, like, he would go, hey, show Danny something, or let him do something. So I got to hang out with cameras and people since I was very young. So I always loved video, and forever. So then, for wrestling videography, I was very sick. I had Lyme disease for about 10 years, and it really wiped me out. So I would watch wrestling and go like, my God, someday. First off, I want to make a movie. That's another deal. That'll be some other day. But when I was really sick, I was like, I just want to film wrestling. Like, that would be the coolest thing I could ever do, is to just hold a camera and film ringside. Mm-hmm. And then, so my buddy was working for like an indie promotion in Ontario. And then again, like I said before, a guy dropped out. So he gave me the call. He's like, hey, can you make it to Aurelia tonight? I was like, dude, I'll make it anywhere. Let's go. Like, I would have driven anywhere in the world. I would have driven to Ohio. I would have driven to New Mexico, no problem. Let's go. So I went there, and it was in a church, and I knew nobody, and I didn't know what I was doing. I knew how to hold a camera and get a shot. Well, then one of the guys, this guy Jeremy, who you know, Brian, that we work with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy was like, he was like the lead video guy of the team, and he was like, "Well, you've seen wrestling," and I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "So then you know what to do." I was like, "All right, man." Like that was it.
That's
And
training.
That's really how I went. I was like, "Okay, yeah." That was all he said. He's like, "You've seen it." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, then you know."
Do
Aurora,
that.
you should try that tactic training people at the store. You know photography.
You know, you've
what to
seen
do.
Yeah.
pictures before.
You've seen it. You've seen a photo.
Top employee.
Come on.
Yeah.
Actually, that's.
Well, then I once had to train.
I was going to say that's true though.
Yeah, it really is.
With wrestling, you know the moves, you know the setups, you know what's coming. You know, like if he's throwing the guy into the rope, it's not ending at the rope; he's coming back, right?
Mhm.
I shot roller derby, and I did it a few times. The first time,
Oh my God.
the pictures were
That'd be
laughing
fun.
the first time because I didn't know the game. I had no idea how to play. I had no idea how
Yeah.
to play, right? And after I figured it out, and my friend that was on the team, she beat me up a little bit because my pictures sucked. But
Wild.
she's a nice girl. She didn't actually beat me up. She threatened it, but she didn't.
But she could, but she didn't.
She could have, yeah.
She's a lot stronger than all of us, but that's okay.
Yeah. And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
like half my size, so it's perfect. But no, the second time it was much easier because I understood the game. I understood how they played and where they were going to go, and you could then anticipate the action. And that's where I was going with that, because if you know wrestling, then yeah, you know how to anticipate the action. So
That is so cool. I would love to film roller derby. Is so rock and roll. That would
Yeah,
be fun.
it's-
But yeah, that's how it
cool.
went. And then I trained a guy in Quebec, and it was the same. I said, because he was like, "What do I do?" And I was like, "Yeah, you've seen wrestling. You know what to do." And he was like, "Oh yeah, you're right, man."
Trick of the
And
trade.
he did a great job.
That's generational
Yeah.
words of wisdom right there.
You've seen
Yeah,
wrestling.
for
That's
real.
the title of the episode.
Yes. Wrestling.
Yeah.
You know what to do.
That was really Jeremy's greatest advice, and he's tremendously he's a very talented.
Oh yeah,
Wrestling
he saved,
videographer,
He
so
saved
that
the
was
day at
it.
the last outdoor wrestling with all the hookups and he's awesome.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
nice having a leader on a team like that and getting that mentoring.
Yeah.
You mentioned your grandfather several times,
yes.
and I know in the
Yeah.
in the email that we sent you, you give him a lot of credit for where you're
Mhm.
at. First of all, sorry that he's no longer with us.
yes.
Yeah.
Having an important person like that in your life is hard to lose for sure. But was there anybody else in the family that really gave you the leg up that you needed to keep at it?
Well, for most things, it was definitely him. I mean, everybody really does support me with whatever it is. They're like, "All right, yeah, go figure it out." Like that's really the attitude of everyone.
You know life.
is
Go for
You
it.
know, life, you've done that.
yeah, go for it. Yeah. No, for real. For the most part, is like anything can be learned, and that's really it. As long as you study, you can learn anything.
Mhm.
And that was always the attitude of my family for really whatever is coming can be figured out. So like there was one time I saw I think I even put that on the thing, but there was a time I saw Vice News launched a joint into space when Canada approved marijuana usage. So they launched a joint into space with a weather balloon.
Oh, nice.
And this was, my
Was it
sister
lit?
was getting married. It may have been. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a very good question.
Why send
Probably
it up
not
there?
because they would be afraid of it burning out by the time it got up there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or blowing up the balloon.
But I was like, well, if they could do that, my sister's wedding was coming up and I didn't have a gift. So I was like, if they could do that, I could do that. I just need to figure out how. So then I learned how to launch a weather balloon into space, into the stratosphere. And I had a photo or like a printout of their names and the wedding date. And then I launched it into space.
Wow.
It's just, because I just figured it out. But that was the idea of
That's so cool.
most things in life, I think, can be learned.
Yeah, what a wild thing to learn too, huh?
Yeah.
It was crazy. And my mom was she was like, "You're going to kill someone?" She's like, you shouldn't do this. It's gonna fall on a car. And the amount of stuff that goes into it. Yeah,
What a place
she
to
was
go with
so
that.
afraid.
That's the thing I found on my hood.
Did anybody die in the experiment, or was it all good?
It landed in a cornfield. It landed in a little, like the corn is small, in the middle of New Tecumseh, but I launched it in Tiverton, so it went like 3 hours away, drifting. But you calculate how far it's going to drift. You have a GPS tracker on it in like a baby bowl, so like it's always pointing up no matter which way the package lands, stuff like that.
Cool.
Very
So
cool.
that's my idea of most things in life, is that if you have an idea and you want to get something done, you can learn it or you can figure it out.
It's
You
true.
know?
It's
That
about
is
the effort you
such
put
a
into it.
great piece of advice for anybody who's wanting to learn something new, a new creative field or anything. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a lot of talented friends who I consider to be equal to some people who are extremely successful, but they aren't as successful. Right. And I find I always attribute that to two things: level of interest and follow through. We can all have that level of interest, but not follow through on it. Or we follow through on a bunch of things that we're not interested in. We do things that we hate. Like there's this real fine line to being a successful human, I think. And I give you a lot of credit for being successful. You are enjoying what you do. I see it on your face every time you shoot video. I see it on your face just now talking to you.
I love it.
That's so important. It's so important. And I'm really thankful that you do, and thankful that you're here on the show. We have a couple questions for you at the end of an episode, but before we get to those, I see Aurora's hands up. We're going to make the rounds to see if anybody wants to ask you some more questions. Aurora, go right ahead.
I am so curious because the first thing that Brian mentioned in your intro was a bonsai tree maker.
Yes, I'm glad you called on. You caught that.
That is
I got into that from COVID. Once COVID hit, I always wanted to again. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to. And then COVID hit and I just started watching some videos. I was like, man, I can do this. So I went out with an axe and I dug up some trees. And it's just taking a regular tree and making it small. That's all you're doing for bonsai, really. So now I have a whole rooftop patio filled with bonsais that I find in the wild.
Well, that's awesome.
I go through fields, hack them up. Yeah. I love it. It's just so much fun.
That's so interesting.
What kind of tree are you using to make a bonsai tree?
Mark's looking it up right
really
now.
Any tree. Yeah,
you can see it looking it up.
I have softwood maple. I have beech. A lot of softwood maple because they're very hardy. Mm-hmm. I have a rose bush that was really taken back because the trunk was so thick, so gives that illusion of a little tree. Orange. I have miniature orange. They're called calamondin that were big trees. Again, big bushes. I cropped it right back, and again, it looks like a little tree. So, but they make tiny, tiny oranges that are sour as hell. You don't eat them because it's terrible. Yeah. So I have a bunch of those.
That's so cool.
Cute as hell, though. Probably to look at. Don't eat them, but cute as hell.
Yeah. It's so much fun.
There's so many different diverse things, and your attention to detail on each one, studying how to do it, and it's impressive.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So did you just start doing this for yourself, or was this something that you ended up marketing? Are you selling these to people, or?
No, I don't sell. People can sell them for good money. I just like keeping them, and some over winter, a bunch of them died because this was my first winter on a rooftop patio. So I didn't know how to properly take care of them like I did at my old. I had another house that was where you could bear them in snow and keep it good. And so this was an experiment, and they half of them died. So I was really upset. But then again, this year I just went out again and found new ones. So yeah, you just learn, but it's not like a marketing. I don't sell them. What I do for a living now is I work for my grandpa's company, which is why I'm in the studio here. And because he used to broadcast from here. So I run broadcasts daily from the other end of the studio.
Wow.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I noticed, Aurora, your Hawkeye, your brownie Hawkeye over there. Do you use it?
I haven't used my brownie Hawkeyes yet. I do use.
Okay, they're amazing.
Yeah, I actually researched how to basically adapt current like 120 film to the brownie Hawkeye.
It's super easy. You
yeah.
take your 120 and scissors and just trim that little lip that hangs over. There's like an
Brian. Oh, Brian.
I think Aurora.
There's like a little lip. You just trim it,
and that's it.
and then you can use, and that's it. And then you can use it. It's so easy.
Oh my goodness, I need to
It's
try
just
it.
cutting like a millimeter off, and then you use it, and it gives like such charming photos because it's not great, it's not perfect, and you get the vignette on it, and like some of the glass is warped sometimes, but it's
That's
really
great,
fun. I love
though.
that.
That's a lot of character for a photo.
it is.
So you've inspired
Yeah.
me to try and use it. I will definitely.
Yeah, use it. 120. There's a good lab, NCL, Natural Color Lab. Ivan
Yep.
there. It's in Markham. It's
That's
the
who we talk
greatest
about,
lab you
Aurora.
can use. I mean, I don't know.
Does he do black and
he's
white
incredible.
stuff too?
He
or
does
just-
everything.
Okay,
Yeah,
very neat.
yeah.
So
I
since we're on the
pushed
topic,
200 film, 4 stops, and he's developed it. Like you can see the color of the light. It's been pushed so hard, and he does it.
Wow.
I noticed on your
Oh.
Instagram you do a
Yeah.
lot of different types of film media, and I'm glad that you brought up her Hawkeye because there's so many different things that we're doing these days. I know I'm a photographer, Mark's a photographer, Aurora's a photographer. In the past, we've been criticized for having too many photographers on the show, but I don't care about that because it's so diverse.
no.
There's so many different things, and what you're
Yeah.
doing is different than what I do completely. I shoot digital. I have film
Yes.
stuff, but I don't enjoy it. But what you're doing is you're using different kinds of film, some with purple, different properties to it, and some with, all these different properties. Where did that fascination with film come from? And it's huge now. Film is so big. It's bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah.
But where did this fascination
Yeah.
come from?
It came from I love antique stores. I repaired typewriters for a long time, and I would sell them, and other people would bring me theirs, and I repair it. It's not that difficult, but I once got one for cheap at like a Value Village, and I was like, dude, this is the greatest thing. And then, no, my first one, a guy from Oshawa was working on the Oshawa Library, and they sealed off a room like in the 60s or something, 70s, I don't know. They sealed off a room with drywall. And then this guy was doing the reno, and they opened up like a room that was sealed for all these years. And he took
That's
the
so cool.
typewriter, and then he was flipping it on Kijiji. So I got it for $60. And then
Wow.
I got another one at Value Village, and that was the one I fixed up and I flipped. And that's when I got into it because it was just so much fun. So then I go to antique stores all the time, and I would see film cameras a lot for very, very cheap when you know that they were good quality at some point. So then I would pick them up, and then I just learned how to do it that way. Like Brian, I can't shoot like you can. You are so tremendous, and I'm not just saying like the quality of work you do, but how you use a digital camera. I'm not advanced with a digital camera. I can use video, but I don't know how you do it. Just like the same way with film. Like I know very well now, and from experimentation, and from that guy at NCL Natural Color Lab, where I'd be like, hey, if I want to do this, how could I do it? And he's like, oh, you could do it. You could, like when I pushed it 4 stops on film, he's like, I've never developed that, but I could figure it out. And so we tried, and like a lot of them didn't turn out good, but the ones that did were incredible. So you never know. It's just experimentation, really. And
That's
then you
cool.
get better.
I love old cameras for the aesthetic of them, like the history of it. Like I've got this little 1928 Voigtlander. It's my favorite camera.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
It's a little bellows.
Yep.
Little sucker.
What?
That's in great condition. Oh,
Oh,
my
yeah.
God.
I've actually still got film in it too.
That's like brand new.
Beautiful little camera.
Oh, good
This
find.
is given to me from Martin, a coworker of ours and former. He's retired, but having something like this, it means a lot to me, even though I may only use it once every couple of years, just because it's just so beautiful. Like that's a pocket camera. It's a little tiny little camera.
Yeah.
And this is 120 film,
Yeah.
just like you were talking about, right? It's big negatives.
Yeah.
So, but I just like keeping it on the
That's
shelf
cool.
for now. Mark,
It's like
you get a
mint
camera?
condition. That's like a brand new camera. That's great.
No,
I
Mark's
love it.
reaching for an
I'll
antique.
show you. Hold on, here's mine. This is one I carry on me a lot. It's called the Chinon Belamy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right at all. But again, it's like a pocket camera, and like you pull the film advance, and it pops
right.
out the lens. It's
that's
great.
fun.
So it's just viewfinder. Like you just set the distance, and
That looks satisfying as hell
this
to
is
pull
like
out.
my carrier. Oh, it's so satisfying.
I could sit there like all day.
It
Yeah.
really is. It's like you pull it out really quick.
The Clint Eastwood of cameras.
maybe for our August 7th photo walk, Aurora, I'll use a film camera. I'll think different.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
I'll
Mark, what do you got? Did you bring one?
bring my dad's. I've got my dad's Voigtlander 35 millimeter camera.
Oh, I love
What I've
Voigtlanders.
got in my camera case is these little guys, and it's the C620.
Oh, 620 film.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I have the camera that goes with it. Now this stuff expired in 1985. This one's 88. But it's the idea is that you can you can still use expired film and get some really, really wild results. You just need to find somebody that will
Yes.
develop it for you. So
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get Ivan on the show. That'd be
yeah,
interesting.
cool. But
Dude, you have to get Ivan. He's brilliant.
I also have a little brownie that I got.
Yeah.
And this one is the holiday flash edition, so I'm not sure who I'm flash, but it's the shutter still works. You can see it. You can see it go when you press it. So
That stuff just never died.
Yeah,
You can
that's
buy
all
a
that
digital
matters in an
camera.
old camera.
Yeah.
Digital cameras will die so quickly, and then these old
Yeah.
mechanical cameras, they can take a bullet for you and just like take more pictures.
I've got one.
Is that all you got?
I have one
Yeah.
that's it's from a war correspondent from the First World War that my uncle.
Whoa.
It's crazy. It's
Cool.
still in the pouch and everything. It's nuts. We could probably go
Nice.
empty the cabinet and bring it all over, but I'm sure it's the same as Brian's and Aurora's collections. It's just
We could do a whole show just on like the cool cameras that we have.
Yeah.
Everybody'd be bored but us.
Yeah, this is a very small fraction of my camera collection. And I'm just like aching to go
that's cool.
upstairs. But
Oh, working at Henry's, they multiply like rabbits. It's
yeah.
pretty crazy. All right. Well, enough of that. Any other questions for Danny from John, Sean, Aurora, Mark?
I've got one that's been nagging at me.
One.
So you said that. So when you were laid up and watching wrestling, and that was kind of like the dream or whatever. What were you watching? Like, what is your favorite era of wrestling? The Golden Age
question.
or the Attitude Era?
Okay.
Or like, yeah, what were you watching?
Okay, so I do want to say the Attitude Era, but I would be lying. My favorite era was when Dolph Ziggler was intercontinental champion, and Santino was still like in the game. Those were my two guys. That
Okay,
was
right
when I
on.
watched it a lot. CM Punk was still around.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
dude.
CM Punk was around, so that was definitely the time I want to say Attitude Era,
Mhm.
but I'd be lying.
But that's
That's
no,
when
that's
I really
after
watched it
it,
the
yeah.
most.
Like I was watching like
Yeah.
you know, like VHS tapes of like the Hell in a Cell,
Yes.
like Mankind Undertaker matches and shit like that stuff. But when I was watching it on TV, that was
Crazy.
like when Eddie Guerrero and you know, it was like Monday
Right.
nights, Friday night SmackDown and Monday Night Raw, like that stuff. But yeah, definitely cool, very good.
Right.
Well, Raw's on
Yeah,
right
see,
now.
it was just the
actually.
time.
Oh yeah, Raw is on right now.
This is more important. This is way more important. than what we're talking about.
Danny's like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go.
Yeah, let's not mention Raw.
all of a sudden there's a cardboard cutout of Danny.
Magic. Poof. Just the cardboard. Right.
He's a magician. Don't worry about it. He'll be back.
All right.
Yeah.
Sean, anybody else?
I mean, it's not really a question, but I mean, Brian definitely wasn't kidding when he said that you were a very multi-talented person, and I can't begin to
Oh, I appreciate that.
fathom the
It's-
respect I have for that. I can barely skateboard anymore. So I mean, like, that's the fact that you do all that shit.
Me too.
and-
I
and you're just
tried
wild.
recently, and I was like, I'm not ready for this.
The man's fixing typewriters and making
Yeah.
bonsai trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you
He's
casually
really
mention
My
He
dream
knows all this
is
shit.
the filming.
Yeah, there you go.
No, my real dream is the wrestling videography. That has been such a blast. It's crazy. So
and is it fulfilling?
No, it's all good. Everything's
your
good.
expectations, because I mean, you've been doing it now with Barry for a while, and I think before you were still doing it
with Barry for a
Smash
long
and them,
while.
So
Yeah, we did it with Smash. We did it with Progress. A bunch of different companies, and FLQ in Quebec. It's just so much fun. It's all like I would do it for free. I would do it, all the time. That's a real blast. It's exhausting because I run around like Brian runs around. We both are everywhere in the ring, but that's what makes it fun, is getting the good shot. And like you get to see it and you go, damn, that was, because it's not only is it my enjoyment, but I know the wrestlers get to enjoy it. Like, because a lot of them are friends, and then like they get to at least have they do this such hard work and they really put themselves on the line. They better get a good shot of it.
Oh yeah.
And I know, like, Brian, you deliver that for them too. Like it's just really, that's what makes it fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I love the camaraderie. I remember the last event that we were at. As I'm driving away, Shelly's hanging out with you, and you guys are chatting on the side with Brendan. And I'm sitting in the car, like waiting for Shelly to leave, and she doesn't want to go. She just wants to chat and hang out. And I feel like the Scrooge, like, Shelly, come on, let's go. And she's like, fuck you.
Easy, Ebenezer, come on.
Then she's like, I'm not coming. And then I run to my car and I pull up beside Brian, and we're both like, get in the car, everybody, let's go.
I love it. All right. Okay, so Danny, thanks so much, man. This has been a lot of fun. Before we say goodnight, though, I do want to ask you a few questions. The first question, you already know the question. We've already asked you this question. It's our our challenge that we like to issue our viewers every week that we have a guest on.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah. Do you remember the challenge that you gave us?
I do remember the challenge. Everybody gets a challenge once a week, and my challenge to everybody is to send a postcard to someone that you love. And try to send one once a week to somebody you love. I think that's super important. Whether it's your parents, your grandparents, anybody that you friend, somebody that you love, send them, find their address, and send a postcard every so often. Because my God, that's nice to get in the mail.
I can't tell you how much I love that,
man.
I love that so much. I can tell you right now.
Pen.
The minute I saw you wrote that, I thought of my dad. I don't call my father enough.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Both.
It's not because I don't want to. It's just my world is stupid and I have a horrible memory. By the time I think of it, I know he's asleep. You know what I mean? And I could see how he would absolutely love getting a postcard. So I'm going to do this one. Absolutely. And I'm going to send my dad a postcard. I'll probably send my mom one. Maybe I'll send my sister one. But yeah, it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, great idea.
Yeah, I love it.
That's great. I love it.
I think I'm just going to mail my sister a potato. I'm just going to.
Yeah. Yes.
Think outside the box. Why not?
I had to write her address on it and then postage.
No name. She's like, Mark.
I am the guy that put googly eyes on everything in her kitchen cupboard. So yeah,
that's so funny.
It's funny she never asked me to babysit her kids again after that.
Oh, God.
Holy shit!
That's great.
Yet another reason to not have
That's
children.
great.
All right. You have to get Mark
Can't
over.
babysit. Yeah, perfect.
Googly eyes on everything. Uncle Buck over here. All right. But on to the second question. The second question is tools of the trade. Is there a tool that you rely on? It doesn't have to be a physical tool. It could be something that you think. It could be a mental little trick that you've given yourself. Something that you feel that every time you go to work, it helps you.
That's a very good question. Okay, tool of the trade. I was also in construction for a long time. And so always a caulking gun, always a putty knife, always a good Olfa razor. Photography, I keep like a little pocket camera always because it's nice to get good shots of people. And tricks of the trade, again, like I said at the start of the call, would be to know that if you want to do something, pursue it and just go, hey, I'll just give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, okay, whatever. But at least you tried it, and then you can go, hey, I took up oil painting this weekend. Looks like shit, but I enjoyed it. Okay, maybe I'll do it again. Okay, no, maybe not. But then I'll do something else next weekend. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. That's, I think, a really important tool for
tool of the
everyone
trade
to
would be
keep in your back
studying.
pocket.
Well, I think it's be
Studying.
brave enough to
Studying.
something new.
Yeah. Studying something
Yeah,
new.
to suck, to just be bad. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're brave enough to suck at something new.
He's got a bomb.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, you got a bomb.
All right. So there's two of the questions. The third is kind of a silly one. What is your jam? What's that one song that you can't skip past? You just love. It's the story of your life. It's whatever it is. It's every time it comes on, you love that song.
I love this question.
Okay,
Same here.
that's a super good question. I am a sucker for Jimmy Eat World. So it would for sure
Nice.
be Jimmy Eat World. Any song by them. I've seen them 4 times with Incubus twice, which was a great show.
Ooh, that would be good.
That's a new call. All
Okay,
around.
so
That's
what is
another
my-
episode.
I'm looking for. That is another episode.
John's gonna have to clean off his camera in a second.
We love Jimmy Eat World.
Okay,
over
so
here,
Jimmy
man.
Eat World. Now I'm adding a caveat because my top song that's been played the most on my phone has been "Me and My Dog" by Boy Genius and 405 by Metronomy and Big Pig.
Yo, Boy
So
Genius,
those are my 3. Oh, Boy Genius, come on.
Julian Baker,
Come
Lucy
on.
Dacus, Phoebe Bridgers. Where do you go wrong?
You can't.
I've
go
got to
wrong.
look into this. And this is why we asked the question, because honestly, I am starved for music. Totally starved. I'm still listening
Boy Genius,
from
Brian.
the 80s and
Boy
the 90s.
Genius.
That's kind of my daily
Yeah, throw
listen
that
to.
in.
Okay, thank you. Awesome.
Mhm.
All right, guys. Before we say goodbye, Aurora, would you like to say anything?
I just want to thank Danny for being on. It's been an amazing episode. It's incredible how talented you are. I know we were all kind of saying that earlier. Like everything that you've picked up, it's just so interesting. So I think this has been a really great episode, and I just want to thank you for being on. And yeah.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
I have thoroughly enjoyed my time here because I didn't know what I was walking into, and I was like, okay, well, I know Brian, like we get along super well, and I was like, I wouldn't assume that I would assume that the people he would have on with him would be very cool. So I do appreciate you all. Like this has been very comfortable for me because I've never done a podcast before. This was really fun. I appreciate
Neither
it.
have we. This is our first time, so we're good.
Yeah, we're just kidding.
We're trying to quit.
Actually, you saying it was very comfortable for you is a big compliment, because that is why we do it, because we want to be happy and comfortable, and this is for our mental health, and we don't want to make our guests stressed out in any way. So that's really cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it always helps that Brian sends me a motivational text before every time we tape. No, if you look at our text things, it's just the same text every Monday night. It's just says, "Mark, don't be a dick," and that's it.
That's the motivation.
Keep the guests.
I'm glad you sent it this time.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Brian.
It's not true. That doesn't happen.
Now nobody knows. Lie it all you want, buddy.
All I said before the show is the show link. Hey guys, here's the link.
that was in the group chat. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, John, Sean, anything else you want to leave us with?
Well,
Put you on the spot. You don't have to. It's all good. You just say
anybody
pass.
who's ever listened to this podcast, listen to Boy Genius. That's where I'm stuck on. What I'm going to do when we're done here.
I'm gonna
And
go too.
yes,
Bye.
thank you, Danny. That was so
Yes.
much fun, and you're a very fascinating guy. Lots of hobbies that I didn't even know existed. So very good. Love that. Love to talk wrestling. Love to talk music. We'll do it again sometime.
Always.
Yes.
That'd be
Danny,
great.
I, you know what? At the beginning, when you jumped on the call and I saw your face, I saw how happy you were. I was like fighting the urge to tell you that you have an award-winning smile. So on top of being one of the most interesting men on the planet, you have that.
There you go. Winning.
Just so you know.
Awesome. All right, guys.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
That's
Danny.
it for us. Thank you all, Aurora, Mark, John, Sean, and of course Danny, for being here this week. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Check it out. We've done a lot of shows. This is actually episode 61 overall. This is our second season. We've done a lot of these things. We have a lot of great guests in the past. Check them out. If you have any questions, let us know. Let's interact with our viewers and our listeners. We'd love to answer questions. If you have any suggestions for future guests on the show, let us know as well. That's it for us, everybody. Take care. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Ciao.
Thank you, guys.
Ooh, ooh.